I do want to talk about the positives of a remake here, but before I do, I have to mention the only other concern I have: the music. Final Fantasy VII has some of the best music of the entire Final Fantasy series, and it's all due to the work of Mr. Nobuo Uematsu. Final Fantasy VI had a very distinctive operatic style, not only to its set pieces and dramatic moments, but also its musical score. Final Fantasy VII's artistic directions were far more steam and cyberpunk, and there is a very clear move here towards rock and roll. Hell, there's a spell called Aqualung. Uematsu takes this as a cue to follow in that direction, mixing his usual frolicking melodies with the percussion stylings of rock. Note something like the boss theme, or one of the more famous instances, which involves using the opening of Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze.
どんな感じになるだろうかっていうのがまず一つアイデアがありましたね。それともう一つオーケストラでどういうふうにすればロックの破壊的な音楽ができるかっていう。
Final Fantasy VII's music has this wonderful, dense feel to it, or light when the mood calls for it. And though the lineup of people working on the remake include the people who directed and wrote the original, it's missing the guy who did the music. Yes, there have been a lot of cool and interesting updates to those classic MIDI format tracks, but since I don't know who is overseeing the implementation of the music in the remake, I don't know whether or not we're getting those songs we all know and love, or entirely new ones. And that worries me. On to the positives. Let's talk a bit about the visuals. I honestly thought they'd go with something a bit more cartoony to maybe bridge the gap between the original and, say, Advent Children, but the trailers they've released so far definitely show something more in line with that realistic style. Wedge looks a little bit cartoony, but overall I think this works. I know there were some comments made on how Cloud looked a bit ill in that first trailer, and I'm hoping they keep that because it's actually a plot point in the original game. The newly released image art shows Cloud looking a bit more muscular, but that could just be the angle. In motion, he seems closer to the original art style by Nomura than he does to a thicker, more muscular character model like Zack from Crisis Core. Speaking of Advent Children, I've always felt the clothing on everyone in that seemed a bit harsher than what I saw people wearing in the original game. It's like autumn or winter wear, while in the original game it was distinctly punk. In comparing the original game's opening to the PS3 tech demo and Crisis Core's post-credits ending, I've noticed they actually seem to be leaning more towards a mix of the original and the tech demo's clothing style. It's an odd detail, but I think it's a good one. I'm still not completely sold on Barrett wearing shades, though. One of the things that always strikes me about Final Fantasy VII is the use of the color green, and boy do we have a lot of that in the footage we've seen. This shot of the Mako exhaust ports is very green and very impressive too. It goes a long way in establishing the scale of the world, which, since I mentioned it, is one of the reasons I'm glad they're splitting this thing up. This is a major point of contention with people, but there's just no way they could really do this as a single release. Call BS on this all you want, but you're wrong. This is an absolutely huge game, and that's without counting whatever story expansions they're supposedly doing. The size of the world, if true to the original game, overmap included, is far bigger than any AAA game currently on the market. It's a game with dozens of detailed locales over multiple continents, with several vehicles traversing a wide range of terrain types with varying weather conditions. This, along with an array of mini-games, each with their own separate game mechanics, makes for something that seemed almost impossible then, let alone now with high-end graphics, and if they try and keep their original no loading times promised from the original, which was a big issue in 2016's Final Fantasy XV, I just don't know how they do it. I mean, just remember off the top of my head, they had a CPR mini-game, the bike mini-game, snowboarding mini-game, keeping warm mini-game, a submarine mini-game, and more. Now, I'll be honest, I do think this will make the game, in the long run, a more expensive purchase. Especially if they decide they're going to charge a full game price for each installment. They've said each one will have the content of a full-size game, and so for fans, this may be worth it. For years, people were saying they'd pay almost any price for a total makeover remake, so it's been kind of funny to see these same people balk at the idea of paying for multiple installments. While I'd really like to know more about how they're splitting up the narrative and what the price for each installment will be, I'm glad they're doing this over cutting content in order to do it justice.
We're paying you more than a few gil. You best be worth it.